You hate being an attorney.
I do.
Why did you go to school for it?
I was working at this school called Seattle Urban Academy. I was a part-time educator and a part-time administrator, often feeling what would be a traditional kind of like a vice principal role. So I was like head of detention, which was maybe not the smartest thing because I would regularly be like, look, is there another way we could deal with what you got detention for? Because having you sit in my classroom for 45 minutes, I actually don't think is going to respond to the underlying thing. So very few students started getting detention. But I also had a lot of young folks who had active court cases, and they would go to court, they'd come back to school, and I'd say, what's going on with court? And they would say, I don't know. And so then I started going to court with young people. I was also a King County chaplain at the youth detention center, so regularly talking to young people who were at the moment incarcerated, and they would share things with me. And often, again, it was, I don't know what's going on with my court case. I don't understand where I'm at in the process. I don't know if I'm going to jail. I don't know if I've been charged. And that just continued to be a theme where oftentimes people did not understand what was happening in their cases. And I had heard about this program called a street law program, which essentially you would have lawyers or law students going to schools and they would do basically legal education so people could have access to the tools. And the law is very jargony. I still sometimes have to read things 10 times before I'm like, oh yes, I know what this says. But I went to law school because, as I told UW Law, I want to come in and get your knowledge and take it back to our most marginalized communities.
So your mom is white, your dad's black, you're originally from Indianapolis. How does having a white mom and a black dad influence you culturally?
You know, I think like anyone, my parents and their culture and their roots and who they come from has impacted who I am. I don't know if it's so much that my mom is white and my dad is black, as much as it's that it is the way that those two things interact, especially when they come together in one person. You know, withstanding that we still live in a very white supremacist country where racism is very real. My father passed in December of last year, and medical racism played a huge part in why he did not live longer. I think the biggest impact has been watching the difference in how my white family and my black family get to move through the world, and how I, as a light-skinned black mixed person, also move through the world differently than each of those, you know, sides of my family do. And looking at how even, you know, when my grandmother was in the hospital, the type of care she received, and because on my mom's side my family is poor, there was still a lot of having to fight for the kind of medical attention that was needed. But once that fight was over, my grandmother got good medical care. And on my father's side, it seemed like no amount of fighting, no amount of pushing doctors or nurses to listen to what he was saying about his own body ever got them to take him seriously. It should actually be the deep beauty of the cultures I come from and our history and the stories we tell and the music we make and the foods that we eat. You know, those are the things that I would like to talk about shape me. But, you know, if I'm honest, it really is seeing the way in which racism and classism and sexism have unfolded, and even just like the difference of longevity of life.